or it's not as good as his last work, or it needs a melody. These are all critiques. And that's okay, they're all right, because that's the way they see it. But the important thing is the way you feel about the work you create. And it's really okay to be really excited about the work you create. So that was Gravity Storm.
I have a question. When I listen to your CDs, your live performances, your gigs, I can distinguish very special style, and I think many of us can do that. I mean, your style is different to other guitar players, and my question is, to what degree is your technique, your attitude to playing guitar, and maybe to some degree, guitar itself, very unique, and maybe other equipment, I don't know, strings, you know, effects and things like that. What is the key to your style? What is the vibe, you know, mystery?
I don't know. I'll do my best to try to explain it, though. I believe, my instincts tell me that everybody has the ability to be unique at something that's creative and expressive. Okay? Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's art, maybe it's cooking. You know, it's like my wife can taste something and tell you the ingredients, basically. And I taste it, I have a tone-deaf tongue. You know, I can't, it's like, what do you mean? You take a sip of wine and it's like, oh, it has a oaky finish and a cherry front. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? It just tastes like sour grapes to me, you know? So there is something that each person can do, I think, that is very natural to them, very interesting, and something that excites them, that they have the ability to do creatively that's unique. And I can ask you right now, if you think about something that you do in your life, that when you do it, there's no pressure on you, there's a feeling of enthusiasm. You see how silly, like when I'm even explaining Gravity Storm, I'm like, I'm as enthusiastic as a child almost, you know? And when I was young and I was listening to all these great guitar players, I never thought that I was any good, really. I thought every guitar player that ever played is better than me, and that's okay, you know? When I listened to great blues players, I loved the blues. And I would try to play some blues, but I never felt good enough to be a blues player. I listened to great jazz players. I never felt good enough to be a jazz player, a great jazz player. I appreciated those things, but whether it was classical, country, blues, jazz, even like rock, I always appreciated those things, but something always felt weird to me about sounding like them. Because I thought, why should I try to sound like them when A, I'm never going to do it as good as Jimi Hendrix or, you know, whoever, and B, I can do something else, you know? And I would come up with things that, whenever I came up with something that didn't sound like any of my heroes, it was like a gift or something. It was an excitement, like Gravity Storm. And that's just one example of many things that I've recorded and done where I listen to them and I say, yeah, you hit the mark there, because it doesn't sound quite like anything except you. And that's like, I feel like when I achieve that, and I don't believe that what I do is brilliantly unique. You can hear this, you can hear that, but it's exciting to me, and that's important. And it's really important. So the way I developed my unique style was by accident. I never felt good enough to copy somebody else. And it never made sense to me to try to copy them, you know? And everything I did, I'd see somebody play and I'd say, well, they're better than me, but that's okay because I like the way I play. I like these weird things that go, you know. You know, so I would encourage you, if you were interested in finding your own unique voice on the instrument, you have to look for things that feel unique. And then there would be exercises, things that I would try to do to find more and more unique things. Because whenever I would find something that I didn't ever hear anybody else play, it was like a little gift, you know? And then I'd work on it. And I do that to this day. And in the beginning of the class I mentioned that the thing that I've always enjoyed most was coming up with an idea and then working on it and then being able to do it. So these ideas were unique things. Even the thing that I was just playing you in rehearsal. When I was sitting here today, I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was something. So what I do is I sit usually at night, I try to sit for about an hour and I just play. And I look for something that's interesting and then I work on it until it feels good. And one of the things I just did here was, now you'll see me struggle with it, but that's okay, because that's how you get it. You struggle with it, struggle. As you're struggling, it's most important to remember that you will get it if you stick with it. There's no way that you're not going to get it if you don't give up. So, it was something like that. It was that a rhythmic kind of movement of whammying and, you know. And as I'm doing that, I'm hearing what's not great about it that I'd like to improve. And that's that I'm chopping at the notes, you know? Because I'm struggling to get to them and get this to be natural. You make it a meditation. You just keep doing it and doing it. I'm not going to do that now because you'll get bored. But slow it down. Please remember this, it'll help you immensely, is to relax. Always remember, because when you're doing it, you can start getting tense. You'll never be able to do it if you get tense. You got to this is what I continually remind myself when I'm performing. The better that I play Gravity Storm, when you see, there's a video coming out where you see the performance of all the songs in the set, but especially Gravity Storm, I cannot move fluidly unless I'm completely relaxed, and I think, the only thing I'm thinking about is relaxing. Everything else is happening naturally. And then it's like being on a roller coaster that you just enjoy, you know? So this riff, when I just stopped it, it was because I felt myself getting tense, and I instinctively know to relax because that's part of my whole process. I wanted to tell you that because it's so important. And when I say relax, you'll be playing, you'll see, you get like this. There's all this tension in your shoulders, in your face. You find that stuff in your face, you know, and you'll feel it in your body. Breathe and relax. Relax and breathe. If there's any two words you take away from this, and it works magically in almost any situation in life. You know, when you got to pay taxes and you got that check in front of you, you got to write. Relax and breathe. You know? Somebody says something to you that you don't like, or you know, you find out something about your mate that you don't like, or something. You just. And then, much easier. All right, so you get the picture. So that's what I do. I wait. Now that's kind of a unique riff. Maybe somebody else has done it. I don't know. but I'm not thinking of them, you know? I'm not thinking that Stevie Ray Vaughan would never do this riff, but he wouldn't, you know? And neither would anybody I know, you know? Which is something that I look for. I do a ton of stuff that other people do much better in a sense. But when you look for and you find those little things that are unique, you develop your own style. Now that right there is one aspect of it. That's the technical aspect. The notes are a whole different story. Because the notes, the music itself, not the technique, not not the ability to do this, that stuff is easy because it's intellectual. I can tell you how to do it. Start really slow, do it perfectly, make sure every note sounds absolutely amazing, and then slowly get faster, and you will be a great technician. But to make a profound musical statement, that's something very different. That has to come from a different part of you. You can't technically practice that. That has to arise from inspiration. And there's ways to find that within yourself too. And some people love playing the guitar and they don't want to be inspired musically. They just want to. Most classically trained musicians, their juice is in playing the inspired notes of the composer, you know? They love getting that music and technically practicing it and finding that space where I was saying before, where it's effortless and they can flow with it and be a part of it, but they didn't write it, and they don't care. They don't feel like they're any less because they didn't write it. So if you don't feel inspired musically, that's fine. You don't have to be a songwriter, you know? Matter of fact, if you are inspired musically, nothing will stop you. Nothing can stop you. It will just naturally come out of you. And if you're expecting yourself to be inspired musically and you're not, you'll suffer because you'll always think you're less. So I guess the point I'm making is appreciate who you are and the tools and the gifts that you have, and embrace the things that are exciting to you, regardless of what anybody else says or thinks you should be able to do. Does that make sense? I was going to demonstrate something. When I was young and I was practicing, I went through all of the wonderful techniques. I was so neurotic about practicing exercises. I did tons of stuff like that, and it started very slow. And I was really forensic about it, totally neurotic. I was so into it. I just would watch in the mirror and see if it looked cool, you know. And that's really great because I'm saying, well, I want it to look elegant, you know. If I go, you know, I want it to look beautiful and effortless and flowing. And by watching it in the mirror, you know, that wasn't it. You know, so what is it, you know? And all the things like the vibrato. I think that watching a guitar player is beautiful, you know, and I wanted it to look beautiful and elegant and all this stuff. So when I was young, I would practice that. I practiced my technique, you know, all the scales. If I had a dime, I probably do have a nickel for every scale. Until I was blue in the face, man, you know, and at every tempo. But I was focusing on every note and saying, does this sound the best it can? You know, and at that period that you're going through and you're learning, you have to be very attentive to what it sounds like. Every place you move the pick, it's going to sound differently. You know, this, and this, and this. They're all different, you know? So what sounds sounds best to you. So it's like this feeling and searching for the right thing, and then when you get it, you feel it, and you cultivate it, you work on it. It's like finding a little thread, and just pulling it and knitting it into a sweater. And then I did that with many things. Now those were all technical. But I also dove very, very deep into my inner ear, because that's where the music comes from. And here's some of the things that I did that I could share with you that I would highly recommend you try. Because this, the connection that you have with your ears and your fingers is going to be at the core of the quality of the music that comes out of you. And that can be developed. You can have all the musical ideas in the world, but if you don't know how to get them out to your fingers, they're for naught. They're useless. So you have to develop the relationship between your ear and your finger, not just your ability to connect with the pick. That's good, it's important, but it's only one level. So there was all these things that I would do because I knew that I wanted my ears to be totally in tune with the instrument. So one of the things I would tell you to do that you should practice is being able to just sing anything you play. Just sit down and sing what you play. You don't have to have a good voice. I do it. I don't have a great voice, you know. It's okay sometimes, you know. But you should be able to do this because just think about it. If all you're doing is moving your fingers around and you're not connecting with your ear, you're missing out on a lot. So sit down and get through the hard part by being patient. You hit a note and you sing it. And sometimes you might not hit the note. It might sound like that. And then you might that's it, right? Then you go to another note. You can hear when it feels right. And then you start connecting them. But it might start out like this. But that's a great thing to try, and you can do that, you know, and it's beautiful because when you get into the melody of it, you're not just thinking, you just let go and see, that's so much fun because you know, you hear it in your head, you enter this. I'm not thinking about technique. It's there already, you know? I'm totally connected with the notes because I've honed that skill. It's beautiful to be able to do that. And that's one great thing to practice. And another great thing to try to do is you just hit a chord, any chord. We did this before earlier. I had a young man up here, and he was just like, I don't know, I'll just hit a D chord. And I said, hit a chord and sing something. And he actually ended up discovering that he can sing a nice melody on it. But the way that you find the melody inside of yourself is not by thinking. You have to listen. Listen very carefully. There's a difference between listening and thinking. Listening is a sense perception. When you're listening, you're not thinking. That's obvious, right? If you're listening to something, you're not able to think about it unless you decide to put labels on it. So one thing I like to do in the class is I'm just going to play some chords, and what I'd like you to try to do is just listen without thinking. Okay, now what does that mean, listen without thinking? Okay, if I play a chord like this, if you just listen without thinking, your attention will be in the sound, in every little thing that I play. If you start thinking about it, you'll be saying, oh, he's playing an A7 sharp 5 chord. And, oh, that's a cool chord. I'm gonna bring that home and I'm gonna write a song around that chord. And why is Steve Vai just playing that chord? And I wish he would shred. Or, whatever thoughts come up, that's your mind. But you can't think and listen at the same time. So I'll try this, and I'll play some very simple chords, and see if you can listen without thinking. See how long you can go without a thought coming into your mind. And if the note dies down, follow it with your attention. How'd you do it? So that dimension of just listening, that's where the melodies and stuff come from in yourself. So one thing I would say to try when you go home, or if you want to exercise finding that voice in yourself, is play a chord, doesn't matter what it is. I'm just going to play something here. And then sing a melody, even one note. Now, if you're really listening and you're really in the chord, something will happen. You'll go, maybe not like this, but you. I'm just making it up. I'm trying to find the melody. Now, if I'm thinking to myself, oh, I can't sing, you're thinking, and you lose the connection. And anytime I've ever written anything that was any good, that's where it came from. When I sat and went, I was just listening to those chords and allowing that melody. Now, if I was thinking, I would be saying, "Oh, my voice isn't very good," or "Oh, that's it." That song would have never happened. One time I picked up the guitar and I went. moment of those chords, and that's Tender Surrender. Matter of fact, if you like, I'll play it for you. Okay, now with a song like this, that's how it started, just a little piece, and it felt good, and I recorded it onto a little, at the time it was a cassette, because there was no such thing as digital, and I put it on the shelf, and then years later, I heard it, and I said, there's something